Raise the vibration.
Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Miss Jasmine Summers.
Hey guys, how's it going? Happy to be here with my pal Natalie.
So excited to have you here. Jasmine and I have been friends since high school.
Yeah, probably 10 years.
So today we're going to be talking about all things fashion. We're going to be talking about consumerism, the ethics of the fashion industry, and what you can do to be more conscious consumers, because Jasmine has an extensive background in all things fashion, and she can talk a lot about it. I'm so excited to get this conversation going. Like, what would you say is like the biggest problem with the fashion industry, let's just say? Or the supply chain, or
I think what's talked about the most in the media, which is accurate, is that the environmental effects of the industry are major. There's a stat tossed around that has gotten some pushback as to how accurate it is, but that the fashion industry is the second most polluting industry in the world. So like the validity of that has been challenged a little bit, but in general, that gives us an understanding that it is very, very heavily polluting, whether it's water issues, chemical dyes, agricultural, like I mentioned. So the environmental side, there's very little accountability for the environmental effects of fashion. On the other side, there's also very little accountability on the human social effects, social compliance within fashion. I think that's getting a lot of buzz, especially with COVID and orders being canceled, not paid for, garment factory workers showing up to factories that are closed because Western companies haven't paid for the orders that have already been produced, etc. So we're looking at a very heavily globally impacting industry, both environmentally and at the cost of human labor and human health.
I feel like there's like a little bit of information coming out more and more. Like I've seen some like documentaries on Netflix and things like that, but I haven't heard much actually about like the environmental costs of it. But it makes so much sense that there is so much pollution from it.
I feel like in activism, fashion activism groups or ethical fashion media, it's always pitting the consumer against the garment worker and not really talking about all of the people in between, which as a designer, I saw where I sat in that chain of communication or chain of command, and I didn't have the agency to make it any better for my desk in New York City. I didn't have the decision-making power in the company to say, what would it look like to pursue a more sustainable option? What would it look like to pursue a more ethical option?
Excuse me, I have a comment.
Yes. How about we give 1% of that profit margin back to the people who make this? No, I'd be kicked out.
And they're getting away with it. So like, why would they change? You know, like they're profiting, and it's all about profit. That's all anything's about. So it's like, how do you even make that change?
That's what I hoped to get that's what I hope to, get a clear answer to in Cambodia, and I did not get that answer. All in all, it only became more complicated because basically to keep it short, brands do not own their factories. So there's no accountability because most brands don't own their factories. So the factories employ poor, often unskilled and low educated people to sew the same thing every day. But because the brand, there might be brokers, factory owners, all kinds of middlemen in between. When something goes wrong at the factory, people are dying to make clothes that nobody needs. The brand isn't held accountable to the loss of lives because they don't own the factory. And
so it's technically like the factory owners, like it's
yes. And there's there is more and more. Well, brands are required now to have factory auditors or third-party auditors, people checking in on these places that are registered properly, which is great. But based on my experience in Cambodia, if a 14-year-old or 13-year-old who didn't finish high school comes in with a fake ID from her sister or auntie or whatever, that's still going to be recorded in the books that she's of age.
Yeah.
And it's recorded in the books that she's of age, and the auditor is checking the books. Who's going to second guess?
It reminds me of just the whole like fair trade issue with like where you get your cocoa and your coffee and everything like that. Like, you can buy things that are fair trade certified, but it's not, I mean, there's always more that can be done